In today's episode of Home Media Minefield, I'm going to be reviewing the second sight Blu-ray release of The Strangers, coming up. Happy Halloween! I'm Keith and welcome to Home Media Minefield, helping you with information to navigate the complexities of home cinema and home media entertainment. And for today's episode, I am going to be looking at the second sight Blu-ray release of The Strangers, the 2008 home invasion horror thriller film. Now, I figured as it's Halloween, okay, this film's not about paganism and it's not even set at Halloween, but it is classed as a horror home invasion thriller, and I thought what better time to do the review of this than now. I did an unboxing of this film about a month ago when it was released here in the UK. The unboxing video can be found on this channel, and in the unboxing I look at things like the limited edition packaging, booklet and poster that comes with it, but today I'm going to be purely focused on the audio and video quality as well as the special features on this version of the film. This version also includes an extended cut of the film, which I will come to in the special features section. Now, first up, it's fair to say that this is a 2008 film that has been released several times on home media, DVD and Blu-ray since its release. And this special edition from Second Sight Films is a Region B coded Blu-ray. So it will only play in Region B areas unless you have a multi-region player. There are other versions of this available, which I will touch briefly on today. Now, the film was also released a couple of years ago as a Region A locked release in the US under the Shout Scream Factory title, and that version of the film does include some different special features to what we have on this Second Sight B region version. And also 84 Entertainment in Germany also released a version of this which appears to have some exclusive extras as well. So, as in the name of my channel, it's quite a minefield with what version to get of the many versions out there. Some of the special features from earlier releases have been retained for this release. Now, first up with the video quality here. This is a 1080p Blu-ray, and this film was originally shot on film. To be fair, it's not a particularly colourful film. Most of it takes place at night. There's lots of nighttime sodium lighting and internal tungsten lighting throughout this. And this 2K version, you can see a bit of film grain here and there, but what's important is there doesn't appear to be any digital noise reduction on the black levels, so therefore the blacks don't appear particularly crushed and the image quality is clear and crisp, and it retains its 2:35:1 aspect ratio. Now, onto the audio side of this. This has a DTS 5.1 mix, and there is some good separation on this, but in terms of the audio levels, I remember when first watching this film in 2008 in the theatres, and the thing that really gave the film some impact was the sound, because you would hear the sound of the strangers outside and they would knock on doors and windows and it would be quite alarming. Now, obviously there's been a lot of home invasion movies made since this one, as well as before, and some of them are indeed better. However, what I noticed on the soundscape side of things for this re-release was the dialogue was very, very low. So when those sound effects come in, they are quite loud and shocking, but I found that I was hovering over the volume button on my system, turning it up for to hear the dialogue, particularly at the beginning of this film, which starts off very quiet, and then having to tone it down a bit once the action picked up. Now, it may sound better on other amps and better systems than what I have, but I did feel that the mix here could have been better. Now onto the special features here, and this is where this package shines because you get nearly 2.5 hours of bonus material included on this, some of which have been ported from previous releases, but much of which was newly recorded for this 2020 release. Now these newly recorded pieces consist of retrospective interviews with cast and crew members. These tend to be just talking head to camera style interviews without any behind the scenes footage. However, the information they give in the various interviews is quite interesting. First up, you get an hour-long interview called Because You Are Home with director Bryan Bertino. Now, Bryan talks about his entire journey to becoming a filmmaker, from leaving Texas and moving to Los Angeles to working in various crew positions whilst writing on the side. He talks about his love of horror movies and what some of the inspirations were behind this. And he goes through the entire story about getting this script sold in Hollywood, attaching himself as a director, and dealing with production companies and distributors to finally get this film released. He also talks about the legacy that this has left behind and how it's affected his career moving forward. Next, you get an 18-minute interview called The Fighter, which is an interview with star Liv Tyler. Liv talks about how she grew up loving horror movies and from a young age was watching films like Night of the Living Dead and The Fly, even though she probably shouldn't have been. And how when she first read this script, because of the title, she had assumed it was a comedy for some reason, but as she got into it and realised it was a horror film, she couldn't stop reading and obviously wanted to be involved in this project. She talks about the physical challenges of working on a movie like this. She talks about the different versions of the film, which we'll come on to. And she talks about the audience reaction when she first saw the film, and what a joy that was, that people were genuinely scared and creeped out by this. Then you get a 45-minute interview called Cutting Moments, which is an interview with editor Kevin Greutert. Kevin talks about his love of the medium of film from an early age and how he used to make 8mm films when he was a kid, and how he managed to get assistant editor jobs on Ernest Scared Stupid and The Dark Half. He discusses about how this got him noticed by the producers of the original Saw movie, and how as a low-budget production they gave him the opportunity to be the main editor on that project, and of course how that franchise continued to grow, and they looked at the secret formula being the team that was around them and wanted to keep the team, so how he subsequently got the editing jobs on the rest of the franchise. He talks about how The Strangers came around the same time as Saw 4 and how he had to juggle his schedule a little bit in order to be able to edit that film, and how it eventually led to him directing Saw 6, and how he's now involved as an executive producer, and even mentions the 9th installment of the franchise, which is Spiral. He goes into some depth about the choice of source music for this film and coming up with the looping on the scratched vinyl that we get during the pivotal scenes, and how initial test audiences didn't react well to this film and how it had to be restructured in post-production to work, and is why the film has ended up quite short. He, as did the director, also talks about studio interference and how some of the violence had to be toned down for the theatrical release. Most of these interviews as well also discuss the sequel and how the sequel kept getting delayed so much that by the time it actually happened, many of them weren't involved. Now, The Pin-Up Girl is a 20-minute interview with actress Laura Margolis. Now, Laura explains that the way she became involved with the project was she was originally hired to read opposite the actors that they were auditioning for the role of Jason in this, but how she got a rapport with the directors and producers and ended up getting offered this role. She discusses in length the fact that originally the strangers did remove their masks and some of the emotions that she was trying to put into that before the producers decided that the strangers needed to not have their identities revealed in this film and leave the masks on. And she also talks about how she would have loved to have been involved in the sequel. And that rounds out the new features that were included on this version that were recorded in 2020. One of my minor nitpicks here is there isn't a play all option, and there is a lengthy credit sequence which is about a minute or so long at the beginning of each one, which is essentially the same, that you have to either sit through or skip through to get to the interview part. It's a minor nitpick, but hey, that's what these reviews are for, right? So the remainder of the special features are ported over from previous releases. First up, you get Element of Terror, which is a 10-minute behind-the-scenes featurette. It involves many of the cast and crew members. And what's nice about this is this was made in 2008 when the film was being made. So you see behind-the-scenes footage, you see the filming going on for this, and you hear from some of the cast and crew members that weren't featured in the new interviews. It shows the warehouse that they filmed this in, the building of the sets, and the fact that they actually shot most of this film in chronological order. It also covers some of the makeup and stunt work that was involved in this production. Then you get Strangers at the Door, which is an 8-minute featurette that was filmed around the same time. This is talking mainly with the actors and the director. You get a lot of repetition of the stories that they still tell in the retrospective interviews that we've had. But what is nice is you hear from the other cast members that weren't brought back for the new interviews. As I said, these two featurettes were included on previous Blu-ray and home media releases of this film. You also get 5 minutes of deleted scenes, which is more stuff at the wedding at the beginning of the film, and features James getting some Dutch courage, and a scene with him and Liv Tyler in the bathroom during the attack where they talk more about what had previously happened. This again was included on previous releases. And finally you get the theatrical trailer to round the package off. Now, as I mentioned, both the German edition and the Shout Factory US edition do include some different special features that I'm not able to comment on because I haven't seen. But the thing that's curious is this includes both the theatrical and the extended cut of the film. Now, it's only about 2 minutes difference, and essentially it's an additional scene towards the end of the film. Now, I won't spoil it here in case you haven't seen it, but basically it makes the ending of the movie even more brutal. But that is really the only difference. Now, what is interesting is on the Shout/Scream Factory release, they've released the theatrical and the unrated edition on 2 separate discs, whereas on this it's included on one Blu-ray disc, which is branching between the two. Now, I'd imagine because it's only 2 minutes difference, it hasn't made a big difference in terms of compression on the disc, but again, I wasn't able to do a side-by-side comparison. And that brings me to the end of another home media minefield. If you found this information helpful, then please do like and consider subscribing to the channel and hit that bell icon so that you don't miss anything moving forward. If you've got any comments, questions or feedback, please do put it in the comments below and I will respond. I put out physical media reviews every week, but if there's anything in particular that you'd like to see, past or present, then please let me know and I will add it to the schedule. And please do follow on social media and spread the word and share, as it all helps. There are also links in the show notes below to where you can buy these films, and if you do it via my link, you will be helping the channel at no additional cost to you as an individual. Also, for Halloween this year, Home Media Minefield is doing a live stream, which is tomorrow, 31st of October, at 6:30 p.m. UK time. We're going to be celebrating the 60th anniversary of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which I previously did a unboxing and review of on this channel. But I'm delighted to be joined by two special guests. I've got Ian David Diaz, the mega geek, who is the creator and director of the web series Rebecca Gold. And also joining us from the US, I have Stephen Rebello, who is the author of Alfred Hitchcock and the Making of Psycho, the producer of the film Hitchcock, and he does the audio commentary on the DVD, Blu-ray and 4K of Psycho. So please join us. If you're not able to join us live and join in the discussion, then it will be available as a video cast on this channel. Thank you very much and happy Halloween.